He was a two-time world champion, one of the most naturally gifted players the sport had ever seen. For over a decade, Adrian Lewis was a mainstay at the top of the game. But in just a few short years, things changed. His form slipped, the titles dried up, and by the end of 2024, he'd lost his tour card completely. No dramatic exit, no big announcement, just gone. So what happened to Jackpot? And more importantly, where is he now? Adrian Lewis didn't just arrive on the darts scene, he exploded onto it. From the moment he stepped onto the professional stage, it was obvious he was different. Quick throw, natural rhythm, and a kind of effortless confidence that couldn't be taught. He trained with Phil Taylor, arguably the greatest to ever play, but Lewis never looked like someone content with being second best. He was there to make his own mark. That moment came in 2011. At just 25 years old, Lewis won his first PDC World Championship and did it with flair, becoming the first player to hit a 9-darter in a World Championship final. It was one of those remember where you were moments in darts history. A year later, he did it again. Back-to-back world titles. Suddenly, Jackpot wasn't just a flashy nickname. It was a warning. Between 2011 and 2014, Lewis was untouchable on his day. He picked up the European Championship, the UK Open, and a stack of televised 9-darters that left commentators scrambling. His throw was lightning quick, but rarely rushed. He could shift momentum in a single visit, and when he caught fire, there was no one more dangerous on the board. But it wasn't just his skill that made him stand out, it was the edge. Lewis played with something raw, like he always had a point to prove. Fans loved it. Some players didn't, but the results spoke louder than any critics. He was the future of darts, until, quietly, things started to change. After reaching the top, Adrian Lewis didn't crash overnight, but the signs were there. His throw, once automatic, started to look shaky under pressure. His results grew inconsistent. One week he'd show flashes of the old Jackpot. The next, he'd crash out early against players he used to dominate. Some blamed it on focus. Others said the game was evolving and Lewis wasn't adapting. But behind the scenes, it was more complicated than that. Years of non-stop travel, media obligations, and the pressure of staying on top had started to take their toll. He was burning out, and not many noticed until it was too late. Then came the personal struggles. Around 2017, Lewis became more withdrawn from the public eye. He was dealing with serious health issues within his family. His wife was facing kidney problems, and as a father, Lewis was taking on more responsibility at home. For a player who once thrived on energy and momentum, the spark was fading. On top of that, darts wasn't getting any easier. New, younger talent was flooding in, and the margin for error had shrunk. Every tournament became a battle, not just against his opponents, but against expectations, fatigue, and time. But even as the results slipped, fans didn't stop believing. Because deep down, everyone knew, if Lewis ever found his rhythm again, he could still beat anyone in the world. As Adrian's form dipped, another pattern started to emerge: controversy. He was never the villain of darts, but he had moments where his emotions got the better of him. Over the years, there were several high-profile incidents that drew attention for all the wrong reasons. In 2012, he was involved in a tense match against James Wade, where things nearly boiled over on stage. Then in 2018, during the UK Open qualifiers, things really crossed the line. A confrontation with Jose Justicia turned physical. Lewis was seen shoving his opponent, and the clip went viral. The fallout was immediate. He was fined £3,000 and handed a suspended ban. It wasn't career-ending, but it left a mark. For a player once seen as the future of the sport, it was jarring. Lewis wasn't just slipping in rankings, he was getting headlines for the wrong reasons. And each time, it chipped away at his legacy just a little more. Still, his fans stood by him. Because while the discipline was inconsistent, the raw talent hadn't disappeared. But then came the moment that truly shocked the darts world. By 2023, something felt different. Adrian Lewis hadn't been making deep runs in major tournaments for a while, and his appearances were growing more sporadic. But no one expected what came next. In April of that year, he posted a short message on social media, just a few sentences, saying he was stepping away from the game. No timeline, no clear reason, just a quiet, personal decision to disappear from the spotlight. For fans, it was confusing. There was no injury announcement, no interview, no press release from the PDC. He wasn't retiring. But he wasn't competing either. Some thought he just needed a break. Others speculated there was more going on behind the scenes: burnout, mental fatigue, or simply the weight of trying to chase former glory in a game that had changed. Behind closed doors, Lewis was dealing with things most people didn't see. His wife's ongoing health battles meant more responsibility at home. He had spoken in the past about needing to be there for his family, and stepping back wasn't about quitting. It was about real life catching up with him. And while he stayed out of the spotlight, the darts world kept moving. New stars emerged, the game evolved, and the rankings shifted. By the end of 2024, Lewis's absence had become official. He no longer held a tour card. Not because he failed to qualify, but because he hadn't played. He simply let it expire. For a player who once ruled the biggest stage in darts, that kind of quiet exit was almost surreal. No final walk-on, no chance for fans to say goodbye, just gone. And what made it all more unsettling was the silence that followed. No real update, no comment on a possible return. Just the growing question: was this really the end of Adrian Lewis? For nearly a year, it was total silence. No tournaments, no interviews, no live stream sightings. Just the memory of a player who once dominated the stage and then vanished. But in early 2025, something changed. A few small things started to pop up. Lewis signed with Modus Sports Management, the same group behind exhibitions and smaller events, featuring both legends and rising stars. It wasn't a major headline, but to fans paying attention, it felt like a signal. He wasn't done, not yet. Then came what looked like the turning point. Adrian Lewis was officially announced to play in the Modus Super Series, scheduled for May 2025. It wasn't a PDC event, but it was competitive, televised, and known for giving both veterans and up-and-comers a serious platform. For fans, this felt like it, the moment he steps back into the game. But when the event rolled around, Adrian didn't appear. No show, no statement, no explanation, just a name quietly missing from the lineup. And suddenly, the same question returned, louder than before. Where the hell is Adrian Lewis? His name was there. His return seemed real. But whatever was going on behind the scenes, it stayed behind the scenes. Once again, Lewis had disappeared, this time without even saying a word. But here's the catch. Lewis can't just walk back into the PDC. Without a tour card, he's effectively on the outside looking in. And to get back in, he'll have to go through Q School, the brutal multi-day qualifier that younger players train years for. That challenge is still ahead, likely in 2026. Still, the fact that he's even showing up again is enough to spark questions. Is he serious about coming back? Is this just a one-off? Or is the two-time world champ quietly preparing for one final run? For a long time, Adrian Lewis said nothing. No interviews, no statements, just silence. But recently, that started to change. In a few scattered posts and appearances, he's begun to open up, not just about darts, but about where his head's been. In one of his first real statements since stepping away, Lewis made it clear. He never lost the love for the game, but he did lose the feeling, the spark. He talked about how darts had become a job, something that weighed him down rather than fired him up. And instead of pushing through and risking total burnout, he stepped back. Now he says, he's playing again with a full heart and soul, and it shows. What stands out most, though, is his tone. It's not the brash confidence from his early years. It's quieter, more reflective. He knows the road back won't be easy. He knows the sport's changed. But there's still that edge in his voice when he talks about proving people wrong. He's also made it clear that respect in the sport matters to him, recently calling out what he saw as disrespect toward legends like Phil Taylor in light of the hype surrounding younger players. That comment struck a chord. It wasn't just about drama, it was a reminder that Lewis still sees himself as part of that older generation. And maybe he's not ready to let it go just yet. For now, he's not making big promises, no declarations of a full return. But he is back on stage, competing, smiling, throwing well, and that alone is enough to get fans asking the same question. Is Jackpot really coming back for one more shot at greatness? It's one thing to show up at an exhibition. It's another to walk back into the pressure cooker of professional darts, day in and day out, and fight for wins against players half your age and twice as hungry. That's the reality Adrian Lewis faces if he really wants back in. The talent? Still there. His throw looks as natural as ever. Smooth, instinctive, dangerous. The experience? No question. He's been on the biggest stages, faced the toughest opponents, and come out on top. But the real test now isn't technical, it's mental. Can he handle the grind of Q School? Can he find the consistency that's been missing for years? And more importantly, can he still believe in himself the way he once did? When he was walking into World Championship finals and hitting 9-darters like it was just another leg? The sport has changed since Lewis ruled it. It's faster, deeper, and filled with rising talent that grew up watching him play. He's no longer the future. He's the wild card, the mystery, the what if. But that might just be his greatest weapon. Because if Lewis walks into Q School with nothing to prove and everything to play for, he might not just come back. He might shock everyone all over again. Adrian Lewis didn't fade away because he couldn't play. He stepped back because life, real life, demanded it. After years of pressure, travel, and expectations, he made the rare decision most athletes never dare to make. He walked away without a spotlight. Now, for the first time in years, he's showing signs of coming back. Slowly, quietly, but on his own terms. No hype, no headlines, just the throw, the board, and maybe something to prove. Whether he makes it through Q School or not, one thing is clear: Adrian Lewis isn't done. And if he does manage to claw his way back onto the tour, well, we've seen what he can do when people start counting him out. So what do you think? Is Adrian Lewis gearing up for a real comeback? Or is this just one last run for the love of the game? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe, because if Jackpot is really back, you won't want to miss what happens next.